Final with the B main final number 1. We have Tam, Darius, and Aoyong. Tam, Darius, and main 35. 35 for marshalling. B main out. B main followed by F1 dash and L A. A main drivers for 13.5 out on Jolam, Danny. B main 17.5 drivers, and I have Tam, Darius, and Aoyong. Tam, Darius, and Aoyong. The track is open for you. Please be out immediately. Tam, Darius, and Aoyong. I see Darius out, Tam out. Darius and Tam is already out. I'm waiting for Aoyong. Yeah, can you see whether Aoyong? Okay, coming. Then it is 17.5 A main. The rest of the 17.5 drivers, please stand by. 13.5 A main drivers out for marshalling. Sean, Aku, Jolam, Adrian, EC, Asrul. Hey, boy, I got the TQ trophy already.
Yeah. Wait, what? Really?
Yeah.
You got TQ in 75.
Both tangi.
Yeah.
Oh no, Sean. It was an express, damn it. The Tamiya is in 13.5. Alright guys, no more laps. Let's line up the car for the final. Please drive over to Abun. Kam will be starting in first. No more laps, Kam. No more laps. No more, yo. Parking, go Abun. In second place is Darius. And in third is Aoyong. Drive up, Darius. Drive further up a bit. To the front. Tisan. Go to the front. In front some more time. In front, go to... Oh my god. Guys, go to the front. In front some more. No. Start from the front. In front. Start from the front. Yeah, all go to the front. Abun, in front some more. Number 1. One. Come, number 1. Darius, in second place. Darius, go up front. Darius, drive to the front. Second. Yes, you are second. Two. Okay, drivers, do not move. Let me just give you... Okay, this is... Marshall Freddy. Right. Go on. Left. Pull again from Tom now. Tom is coming back on there. There on the second lap at 13.8, Tom at 13.9. Aoyong not that far behind. Gap between these three cars is only 1.5 seconds. Still, there he is from Tom. There he is now starting to pull a gap. It's 1 second gap from Tom, but it looks closer now on the transponder line. Still 1 second between the two cars. There is went a bit wide at turn 1.
To drive.
1 minute past, 1 minute past, 4 more minutes of racing left. It's still Darius from Tom. Both cars take to tail down to the transponder line. Going down the long straight. It's the orange, black and white car of Darius from Tom. Both cars are checking, head to tail. Clean driving drivers. Tom is the curb. Darius is going to be sideways, opening a gap. Here comes Tom. Still the fight for first is going on after 1.5 minutes. There is last time by 14.3. Still there is from Tom Moka, head to tail, down to the transponder line. 13.9 for Tom. 13.8 for Darius.
3 minutes to drive.
2 minutes past 2 minutes. 3 more minutes of racing left. Here comes Aoyong. Aoyong's found the pace on his car as well. Not that far behind. Two and a half minutes past. 2.5 minutes of racing left. Went a bit wide there, turn 1 and turn 2. Just to play safe. Here comes Tom. Both cars matching lap time. Last time by, there is 13.7, Tom 13.7. They look super close now. 2 more minutes, drivers. 2 more minutes to race. Darius from Tom. Last time by, Darius 14.3, Tom 13.8. Let's see on this lap. Darius 13.5, Tom 14 flat. Darius pulling a gap now with 2 more minutes left. Next up, Amin 17.5. 17.5, Amin drivers, please get yourself ready. Darius missing the braking marker there. Went very wide at turn number 1. Gap was the 1 second. For Darius, 14.1 for Tom. With 1 more minute to race, 1 more minute, drivers.
One minute to
1 more minute. Both cars now head to tail. Lining up a pass on Darius. Both went wide. Going down to the chicane. Lifesaver corner. Darius keeping it tight. With 30 seconds left. Here comes Tom on the inside. Both cars collected. Tom is now in the lead. Tom from Darius. With 20 seconds left. Darius going a bit sideways, losing grip there. Last 15 seconds, 1-5. There should be 1 more lap after this. Tom and Darius, you are racing to the line.
Race finished.
Here comes Tom for the win.
One.
Takes the win in first, Darius finishes in second, and Aoyong in third. Next up, 17.5 Amy. Okay, next up Amy, 75. We need some volunteer marshals. We only had 3 in the last round, so can we have some volunteers? Leading drivers to marshal, please. We will need a few more. Starting in 4th position, Ismail, Sebastian 2, Julian 3, Arcadius 4, Tony 5, Steve 6, Eric 7, and Sip Jong 8. Actually, there are numbers. Will you put it? Basin has stickers. Marshals, we need some volunteer marshals, please. Can we have the pro stop and stop Amy drivers to maybe give us a hand with marshalling? That means Abun. Thank you. Watch on the street. There's not much on the street. Cars on the street. Track is still live. Track is still open. So watch it. Go low on the street. We have a marshal on the street. Okay. Track is closed. Number 5 is Tony. Tony is the purple car. 7, Eric. Tony's handicap. Thank you guys. Okay guys, listen up. Do not go. This is just a test. Arcadius. Testing, yeah? I just sound the tone. Do not go. Okay, this is how. Can you hear it? Cannot, right? Yeah, let me try again. Okay, this is how you sound. Drivers ready, marshals ready, we go racing on the road. A nice clean start for everyone. A bit of a gap already between all the cars. It's Isma, Sebastian, and Julian. Tony makes a move. Goes up to 4th position. Arcadius drops to 5th. Then we have Sip Chong moving up 2 positions up into 6th position. Steve and Eric running their first A-main here on the roof. Closest battle on track between Tony and Arcadius, and also a close one between Julian and Sebastian.
minutes to drive.
It's a close one between Julian and Sebastian, and also between Tony and Arcadius in a fight for fourth position. Tony with a slight advantage at the moment. In the meantime, it's a 3.2 lead for Ismail, already lapping Sipchong. Tony goes wide. There were a lot of carriers to close in. Tony missing the breaking point again. And already we have the leader coming out on Arcadius. Okay, the leader, the white card is behind Arcadius. Thank you, Arcadius. And Tony, you're next. Thank you. Good battle there between Tony and Arcadius. Plenty of respect between the two of them. Arcadius making the trip here from Poland with his father. 3-day visit. And set roll, I was told. And he loses second place to Julian Green Machine Fu. And it's still very close for fourth position. Sebastian making his comeback. Watching two battles on track. Sebastian being very patient. Arcadius as well. Good job, guys. We're at the halfway mark, 2.5 minutes to go. At the 3-minute mark now, just over 2 minutes to go.
2 minutes to drive.
Sebastian looking very racy indeed. Had a look on the inside. Julian protecting the line. So Arcadius, you have third and fourth, second and third coming through. Thank you. Arcadius losing some pace against Tony. So the closest battle is between Julian and Sebastian. Sebastian looking like he has a lot more grip, a lot more rip as he steps. Oh, wait, no. Easy guys. Less than 1.5 minutes to go. So Arcadius leader behind. Thank you. He's now all on his own out front. So Steve, you have set coming up on you.
1 minute to
Thank you,
drive.
Steve. 1 minute to go. Still the big battle between Sebastian and Julian Fu. Arrowmax and the TRF fighting. Then the fight for second place. Julian having a slight advantage at the moment. 40 seconds to go on the clock. Now comes in to complicate things. We have 15 seconds to do. Thank you. So one more lap, it should be a race to the line. There goes Julian down the straight. Sebastian had a look here. Julian went right.
4. Finish.
To the front chicane now, to the headpins, the X section. It's going to be a national line. And Julian takes it by just a split second. All cars done. Tony finishes in 4th, Arcadius 5, Eric 6, 7 is Sip Chong, and Steve Lister. Good job, guys. Good race. Next up will be F1. E-main number 1, F1.
13 minutes.
Andy checks in. Okay, A main drivers from the 17.5 class to Marshall, please. Apana checks in, waiting for everyone else. Charles coming in through. Cayman checks in. Apana sounding very noisy. Here comes Dominic. Waiting for Ao Yong and Julian. Okay, Julian will.
Alright, this is final one for F1 Gaming. We're waiting on Julian and Ao Yong. And we will commence with the race. Starting on pole. In second, Apana in third, Cayman in fourth, Andy in fifth, Charles in sixth, and Ao Yong in seventh. Alright. Cars on the straight, no more laps, no more laps. Line up your cars. No more laps. Starting on pole dot. Slow down at the straight, slow down. Drivers, can you hear? Okay. Dominic, you want to run in and take a battery first? I have a battery in my shelf. Obviously lah. Don't blame me. Alright, drivers ready. Marshall's ready. Let's go racing at the sound of it. And they're on the way. Dominic immediately pulling again. Julian Fu, who's under attack from Tapana, but Tapana went a bit wide there. Cayman's under attack from Andy. Everyone pushing off the start. Nicely there. Dominic, after one lap, 0.5 second gap. Julian has a 0.5 second gap. Here comes Cayman on Julian. Andy starting to lose a bit of pace. Cayman clips the dot. Here comes Andy again. But Andy went a bit wide. It's still Dominic Quack. Going a bit sideways from Julian Fu. Both cars down to the chicane. Lifesaver corner. And a long left. Down to the transponder line. Gap between the two cars. 0.5 of a second. Last time by Dominic. 12.7. Julian. 12.8. Let's see on this lap. Looks super constant on the track. In the times. Both cars going 13s. Slow lap there. And both clipping dots. Ao Yong, careful. 1 and 2 is coming up towards you. One more car, Ao Yong. Here comes Dominic passing the line at 13. 5. Julian at 12.8. Gap has gone down to 0.5 of a second. But Julian clips the dot. Dominic going a bit sideways. Dominic 12.7. Julian 13.3. Then it's Tapana, Cayman, Andy, Charles, and Ao Yong. A 13.2, Dominic, slow lap there. Julian replies with a 12.9. Gap is going back down to a 0.5 seconds. Sorry, 0.7 seconds between the two. 3 minutes past, 3 minutes past. Sorry, 2 minutes past, 3 more minutes to race. 3 more minutes. It's still Dominic from Julian Fu. Both cars just passing the chicane. Lifesaver corner. Watch Watch it there, Charles. You'll have the 2 leaders coming up towards you soon. Dominic replies to your 12-7, Julian 13-2. Charles, you have the leader coming up towards you. Thank you, Charles. One more car. Thank you, Charles. Flat Dominic and 13-1 Julian. Careful, Andy. You have the leader sliding around. Right on your tail. 2.5 minutes left. 2.5 minutes of racing left. Dominic went a bit wide. Something dropped out from his car there on the track. What was that? Drivers, stop talking at it. Team orders. Andy collecting his own
2
teammate.
minutes to drive.
Seems like Julian has given up the chase. He's gonna settle for second. Meanwhile, Tapana is also safe in third. Heyman is playing alone with 1.5 minutes left. Last time by Julian 13-2. Tapana comes in with 13-4. 2 seconds separating the two of you. Dominic all alone clocking 12-8, 12-7, 12-8, 12-7. So with Julian right on his tail, he can only go 13s. Another 12-9. Sub 13 seconds for Dominic. Last 1 minute. 1 minute left. Next up is C-Main. Dash Pro Stock C-Main drivers, please stand by. Dash Pro C-Main, please get yourself ready. 1 minute to start. It's still Dominic Quack from Julian Fu. Then it's Tapana B. Careful there, Young. That is third place. At your tail. Thank you.
30 seconds to
Last
drive.
30 seconds. Last time by Julian 13-4, Tapana 13-4. Still the same. Careful there, Charles. That's the leader on your tail. Thank you. Last 10 seconds, drivers. 10 seconds. Dominic there, running around, all alone.
Time is over.
Complete
Race
the lap
is
you're on.
finished.
Andy, you're done.
Five. Finished.
Julian going slowly. He's done. Tapana is done.
Finished.
Dominic takes the win.
Six. Finished. 4. Finished.
And our young from everyone taking final number 1. Dominic Quack with 23 laps, 5-0. Next up, Dash Pro Stock Class, C-Main 1. We have Tick Fong, Bruce, Yasmin and Ivan. Tick Fong, Bruce, Yasmin and Ivan. Please come up. Wah, Young left the two of you ah? Like that one, bro. He changed your Como already. You need to remember. Ah. Alamak. Bohua oh ya topeng. Walah, bohua leh. Waiting on Ivan and Yasmin. Ivan and Yasmin. F1 drivers out for marshalling immediately. Thank you. F1 drivers. That's F1 drivers out for marshalling. Waiting on Yasmin. A little go. Here comes Yasmin. Who's helping you? Who put down your car? comes Yasmin. Take it easy, take it easy. Race hasn't started. F1 drivers, please proceed for marshalling. Thank you, F1 drivers. All of the F1 driver. Everyone's clocking. No more laps, no more laps, no more laps. Stop at the straight. Do not do any more laps. Starting on pole, take form. After a long hiatus, coming back into racing. That is take form in the all white. In second, Bruce. Getting sabut by take form, Darren, Young, Mason to join the race. Starts in second. Take form further in front with some more. Yeah, there. Number one. Bruce in second. Third is Yasmin. Fourth is Ivan. Don't need to say. Okay, guys, this is just a sample. Do not go. Okay, sample sound. That is your starting tone. So, drivers ready. Marshals ready. Let's go racing at the sound of the tone. And there are off. It is. Take form, pulling a gap from Bruce. Yasmin's not that far behind. Then it's Ivan. Oh, careful there, Bruce. Ivan is stuck. There it goes, Yasmin running away. Bruce is now under attack from the young girl. Watch it. Take it easy, Yasmin. Slow is fast, slow is fast. You need to slow down earlier. It's still take form. A huge gap from Bruce and Yasmin.
4 minutes to drive.
1 minute of racing pass, 4 more minutes left. Next up, B-Main. Go stop. B-Main drivers, please stand by. Ivan, watch it. Thank you, Charles. Good one there. It is take form running all alone. With a 6-second gap from Bruce. And it is Yasmin a further 3 seconds behind. Last time by take form doing a 13.3. Bruce 13.6. Yasmin 13.1. The fastest car on the track. Oh, and Ivan is out. Ivan, stop moving, stop moving.
Three minutes to drive.
It's take form from Bruce. Then it's Yasmin. Ivan is already out. Jason having a look at it. Oh, he can't sell any spare parts. The car did not break. Oh, the wall is broken. We have to replace the wall. Alright, so it's still take form. 1 lap gap from Bruce. Then it's Yasmin, who's just 3 seconds behind Bruce. Careful there, Yasmin. Don't do what your dad did. Take it easy. Slow down, slow down. Take form. Driving consistent lap times. Next up, B-Main. B-Main drivers, please stand by. B-Main.
2 minutes.